You're a neon soul in the dark moonlight. Neon soul with a neon light. You're a neon soul in the dark moonlight.
Whew, what a day. It is Friday. And as much as I'd like to tell you that today is a great day, we got a lot of stuff that we're dealing with today. So we have Jeremy Brown that's going to join us later. But we also have we have a newbie that's in the studio. I think this is the first time that Matt's been sued, or they're threatening to sue him, I guess. We don't know yet. But we got Matt Wallace in the house, and we're trying to keep it light for him because, you know, it's his first time. What's up, brother?
Welcome to the club, I guess. How's it going, Joe? By the way, I didn't hear any of that. I still don't know anything about. I don't know if he could be making that up. I have no idea what's happening. So,
well, I mean, technically,
legally speaking, I have no idea.
They have to sue you, but it was on TMZ that they were going to sue you.
I have seen nothing about it. I have no idea what any of this is.
So I happen to get a sneak peek into it, Matt, and I just so everybody knows, my words are my words. Right. And so if he, the guy that is trying to sue Matt, wants to get mad because he is a he, I'm just telling you, those are my words. Joe Oltmann, Oltmann, my words. You're a dude. If it swings, you're a dude. Sorry, XXXY. But Matt, they're supposedly suing you because you misgendered him.
You know, misgendering, I guess, I knew it was a crime in Europe, right? If you misgender someone in Europe, you're going to prison. They're going to come to your house and they're going to take you. I didn't know here in the United States, you know, where we have supposedly freedom, that misgendering is apparently, and again, this has no relation to anything that is happening in regards to any legal cases, just my opinion. But if you misgender someone, that's not against the law. And on top of that, basically what they're saying is, it's not just about misgendering. We have to accept that is a woman, or that is a man when they were born as the other gender. And if you're telling me I'm going to have to let a man who has male genitalia
wiener, he's got a wiener.
If I'm supposed to let him into the bathroom with my daughters, that's what's being insinuated here. I have to say what gender they identify as, but it's not just that. Then you have to go a step further. Now they're allowed to compete against my daughters in sports and go into the locker room and bathroom with them. That makes my family unsafe. And so if anyone thinks they can bully me or anyone else who is strong in their convictions into pretending like someone's the opposite gender, it's not going to happen. It's a free country. Do what you want. Get whatever surgery you want to pay for, but you're not going to be going into the bathroom with my daughter, and you can't make me call you what you want to be called if that's not what you are.
All right. So you're supposedly being sued. Everyone's talking about you. Their pictures are just not that flattering, honestly. I mean, you're a better looking dude than the pictures they put up, in a non-gay way. I mean, you can't play basketball, but
I beat him in horse, so eventually it'll be. Joe's surprisingly good at one-on-one. I will say that. Surprisingly good.
One-on-one.
Like you wouldn't expect
we played 2-on-2, and I was like Jason Williams, and the whole time, like, whoop, no look.
I was playing like Jokic out there.
You can say what you want. Who won?
All right, look, Joe won. We'll put it out there. Joe won.
But didn't I tell you up front I was going to win?
He did, and we have a friend who is a D2 player, and Joe thinks he's going to beat our D2 player friend as well. And I feel like Joe's about to get handed a loss here. When's the last time you lost in a game of one-on-one?
It's been a long time.
Like how many years?
I don't know. I mean, I've been beat before. I mean, I have off days, but it's not very often. Like, and usually it's because I'm like, all right, go ahead and shoot. I mean, when I play. But all right, I gotta get all this out because this is before we talk about the other stuff. How's my 3?
Gosh. It doesn't even make it. He was shooting from 30 feet out and it was going in. It was going in consistently like a free throw. Like, what's going on? How is he able to just make 30-foot threes like he's Steph Curry or something?
I kept doing it. I was like, look, I can do this all day. You're like, no, he can't. He's going to miss this one. And then I wouldn't miss it. He's like, you're going to miss this one. Didn't miss that one either. Oh, you're going to miss this one. Didn't miss that one.
I mean, I did go on a, what was it, an 8-1 run. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I started to come back.
But I was up 16-0. I mean, you were a little demoralized when I gave you. I was like, here, let me let you shoot a little bit.
See, I was just letting him win so I could get a spot on the podcast. That was my plan.
He knows he can come on anytime. So we know that's not true. All right. We got an elephant in the room, though. Besides the fact that you're now TMZ famous for calling a dude a dude.
It was so
weirdest
funny.
world.
Like they're like all serious, and then the misgendering happened, and they pull up a picture of me, and it's just me smiling ear to ear. I was laughing so hard, like it's not that serious, you know. It's if you misgender someone, that is not. How many times we gotta say this? It's not a crime to quote misgender someone in the United States. So,
I mean, are we allowed to call people gay? Are we allowed to do that? Is that misgendering someone too, or misappropriating?
Why are you gay?
Well, why are you gay? Okay, so I think we can do whatever we want. We say there's this thing called the First Amendment. Now, here's the thing about defamation, okay? Because it did say that you defamed him, this man who dresses up as a woman, right? I mean,
I don't know anything about any lawsuits. I'll put that out. I don't know anything. I'm learning anything I'm learning from you right now.
Okay, so that's what it said. And I keep going to myself, they're moving the goalpost on defamation. Number one, you don't defame someone by calling them a man. You don't even, and here's the other thing I know for a fact. Matt was not the first one to put this up. You weren't. You weren't the second person. You probably weren't the 1,000th person to put it up. It was out there everywhere. I mean, there's even publications out there that were talking about it, mainstream publications that were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even confirming or denying if I posted anything at all about it at this current point in time. But I will say, in regards, if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, there were thousands of people all over the internet, many mainstream publications. There was a lot of evidence that looked overwhelmingly credible. And so if you look at it from that perspective,
yeah, it did seem credible. It seemed credible to me. I posted it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of the people posting it had malice when it comes to posting it. I think most people, almost everyone who was posting it, genuinely believed it was true. And there were way many articles saying that it wasn't true afterwards that came out. So the overwhelming support and publicity was in a positive way. It seemed like more so than anything else.
Well, here's the bigger issue. When we look at it from the standpoint of malice, like, did you have malice? The idea is that whoever was in that seat, there was a question whether or not that person was a DEI hire. Were they put in that position that caused the death of that many Americans? And this is where you get sideways with the leftist loonies that are out there. And that is, so you move to lawfare in order to silence someone based on the idea that we should be looking out for our fellow Americans. And if you're hiring people based on the DEI quota system and putting them in that position, then it's a problem, right? It's a massive problem. And all of a sudden you have somebody that sat in the room with Biden and is one of these leftist, I'm going to call them what they are, mentally disturbed individuals. You don't want 150, I don't know how many people died, but it was over 100 to die because somebody wants to put some dude that dresses up like a woman in the cockpit and cause others to die. I think it's a reasonable expectation and a reasonable thing to question. You should be able to question this DEI, which, by the way, just means die. And that's what happens. People die when you put, race or religion, put anything ahead of competence. That's what happens.
And one thing to keep in mind is there's a lot of influencers right now who are in positions, including myself in some ways, where lawsuits can be very serious. And this is completely unrelated to anything that's currently in the news or anything like that. Just a completely separate opinion. if you can have the ability to sue anyone over anything when there's clearly no evidence of malice whatsoever, and especially if you can use other people's money to do it, that's going to take away all of free speech. There will be no free speech left at all, not even a little bit, if they're allowed to just sue indiscriminately when there's no case. And that's something I think that needs to be driven home over and over and over again, because we are on the verge of losing free speech, and they are going to continue fighting, and they're losing, but they're not going to give up, not even close.
Matt, it's not just free speech. You look at the Constitution; it's very well written, and it enumerates rights that you have. Like these are rights that you have. The First Amendment, which is also the right to petition or redress of grievances, to protest. It's an encompassing in the ethos of America. You move to the Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. You go to the 10th Amendment, which talks about whatever is not in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment. Let me see. Did I get that right? Yeah. Whatever's not in the Constitution is then given to the states, but it is in the Constitution. Then you have the 14th Amendment, the ability for the ability for you to have equal rights underneath the law. In other words, I have to make sure that you as a citizen, let's say you were a citizen of Florida and I'm a citizen of Colorado, I'm supposed to have equal rights. I'm supposed to have equal rights, opportunities underneath the Constitution. But do I? If I can't own a gun in Colorado, but you can in Florida, if I can't protect myself in Colorado because they tell you have to run away, but in Florida you have a castle doctrine that allows for you to hold your ground and to protect your person. I mean, we are at a place right now where you getting sued chills the First Amendment, and that's what they did for 4 years, and they're continuing to do it. And now they've done it on a state level. I haven't seen I didn't recognize whether it was a federal case or a state case.
Yeah, I don't know anything about any cases, but what I will say is that right now it's not just in regards to cases. I mean, in Florida, you can get your driver's license in 15 minutes. There's so many things that are better about Florida, and Ron DeSantis gets a lot of crap for some of his things like trying to arrest Andrew Tate and charge him with something that didn't exist. So he gets hate for that, rightfully so. But at the same time, he does a dang good job running Florida. And if the entire country looks like that, you have the freedom to protect yourself. You have the freedom to enjoy the services that your government provides without having to worry about them. That's like the most basic level. And we know it's possible, and yet no one's doing it in liberal states, and it sucks, and it's getting worse.
Yeah, so that's the whole reason why they do it. I mean, you basically get to the point where you could take away everyone's rights. Now that gets down to, how do we get to this place? How do we get to this radicalized environment? And this is where you get into addressing the elephant in the room, which is election fraud. And the election fraud we have is significant. But yesterday, they did pass the SAVE Act, requiring proof of citizenship to vote. Although that's not the only thing that happened related to election fraud. In a cabinet meeting, Tulsi Gabbard acknowledged that voting machines were fraudulent. I mean, he came out and said it. Voting machines are fraudulent. And stated they would be investigated, and suggested that paper ballots as the best option going forward. So in other words, they're kind of setting the stage. And so we're going to go through that, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to have Jeremy Brown, who's finally able to have a conversation. He's going to talk about what happened on J6. He's going to talk about what happened after, what it was like being in jail, his arrest, how they set him up, because they prosecuted him on two fronts, one on the state side, one on the federal side. And then we're going to talk about what's happening in the Panama Canal and how we're going to take that back. And then lastly, what we were just talking about, free speech, losing that. I want you to talk a little bit about that. But I also want to talk about the fact that SB 25003, which basically strips the ability for anyone in Colorado to own a firearm, is being put into effect. And so we got some laughs after that as well. So all this and more today on Untamed. We'll see you soon. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. All right, so let's jump into this right away. This was yesterday. Yesterday, the U.S. House voted to pass the SAVE Act, requiring proof of citizenship to vote. And here's what it passed on. 216 yay for Republicans. You had 4 Democrats that voted yay, which I kind of want to know what those Democrats are. Can we recruit them? 208 Democrats voted no, for a total passing of 220 to 208. And then no votes, 4 Republicans did not vote, and 1 Democrat did not vote. Pretty significant that we have that.
I don't feel like it's a big win, honestly, because the states are still going to find ways around it. If you think California's not going to, they already are suing. They're going to try to stop any single effort that's made to get people to really have to show an ID to vote, so that they can't have illegal immigrants who are obviously voting in mass in elections. If there's an attempt to stop that, they're going to fight back because they know they will lose power if it goes through. They have no other choice.
If we get to the point where we have free and fair elections, if they're truly free and fair, Democrats don't win another election for 100 years. That's what I believe. I believe it'll be overwhelmingly 90% of our country will be ruled by people who are non-globalist and non-communist.
Just imagine how prosperous we'll be in a scenario like that. If we get a supermajority in the Senate of real patriots who aren't bought and paid for, they will be able to pass stuff that would turn our country on the right track relatively quickly. I mean, we're $36 trillion in debt, but we're not lost yet. There's an opportunity. And, I'm skeptical of if we'll be able to get to that point, but it seems like based on the way the polling is working, we have a chance. And that's exciting.
Yeah. So this is what Democrats do. You're not going to, 208 Democrats voted against it. But now the Democrats have created, again, another red herring that doesn't exist. And what they've been spewing, it's a new lie. It's a new lie for the Democrats. And it would prevent married women from voting due to name changes.
Wait, so I thought we were just going to prevent all women from voting in general. Was that not the plan? I thought that was the plan. But
you have Swalwell. So he repeated the lie. And frankly, this guy's disgusting. He's just a disgusting individual. But here's what he had to say about, the fact that now women that have name changes, they're not going to be able to vote because they can't prove that they're a citizen. Let's go ahead and play it.
Hey, Congressman.
Hey, what's happening? You're everywhere, man.
Yeah. What the fuck is going on with the SAVE Act?
Oh, you mean the Save the Republicans Ass Act? It's the only way they can win elections is by making it absolutely impossible for people to vote. The SAVE Act would make it impossible. It'd be a ban on married women from voting. Why? Because it would require you to have your birth certificate to prove who you are to go and vote. Well, married women who change their name, they're not going to have a document that shows that. So it's crazy. It's just another way to obstruct people from going to the ballot box. All it does is save Republicans. It doesn't save our democracy.
Okay. So I want you to understand the mannerisms of people who are having to remember their lines.
That's so fake.
All right, go back and let's play it again. And I'm going to stop in the middle. Put us on the side if you would. And I'm going to show you what happens when you're in your mind. You're going through what you're reading. If you're a retard. So if you're a retard, this is how you would remember your lines. Put it up real quick, Apollo.
Hey, Congressman.
Hey, what's happening? You're everywhere, man.
Yeah. What the fuck is going on with the SAVE Act?
Oh, you mean the Save the Republicans Ass Act? It's the only way they can win elections.
Watch this.
By making it absolutely impossible for people to vote. The SAVE Act would make it impossible. It'd be a ban.
You see what I'm saying?
He's so untalented. How is this guy in our government?
It would require you to have your birth certificate to prove who you are to go.
It would require you to have your birth.
But you see his hand movements. So we always judge things based on whether or not he believes it or doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe any of it. You'd have to have your birth certificate. You couldn't prove you're a citizen. It's actually very simple to prove that you're a citizen. There's this thing that you have on the voter registration that you have inside of states that will require you to record that you're a citizen. It has to be fully auditable. Yeah, you have it for driver's licenses. How do we have driver's licenses that say that we could drive in the United States if what he's saying is accurate?
It's not. And I'm wondering also while I'm watching this where his Chinese spy girlfriend is. I mean, maybe, do you think he...
Bang, bang?
Yeah, did he just leave her at home? It's a little disrespectful. Maybe all of this, maybe he's just worried that his Chinese wife / girlfriend, not his wife, his girl, what, is he still dating her? I don't know.
No,
but his Chinese love interest, he's worried she's not going to be able to vote. She gave him a call, Eric, I need you to go on and rehearse these lines so I can vote. And that must be it.
So fang, 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 fang. There you go. You see where you started with one finger. Then he goes, he has to remember. So he goes, so he looks down for a minute because he has to remember what he has to say. Okay, let's go ahead and take that down. But so they were able to debunk this pretty quickly. And the Democrats have been spreading these lies about the SAVE Act because they don't want to secure the elections. They want to steal them. And this is the gaslighting that is happening. And frankly, I want them to go in and punch them in the face and just start making arrests. That's what I want. I recognize that maybe that is not always the best way to do it.
I mean, that's what our founding fathers would have done if we're being
100%.
honest. That's what they would have done.
100%. 1,000%, actually. All right. So let me just tell you what. So they put out the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, the SAVE Act. You ever notice that the Republicans actually put out bills that do what they say? And like the Affordable Care Act. Was that affordable, Matt?
No, I think it actually wasn't affordable, believe it or not. Isn't that weird? You would think because it's called the Affordable Care Act, it would be affordable, but it was the opposite, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Rape the American People Act. So this goes through the radical progressive Democrats took dramatic steps to fundamentally remake America through open borders and a full-scale assault on election integrity laws. So Chip Roy's SAVE Act will address the required proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections to ensure the integrity of the elections. It amends the National Voter Registration Act to require states to verify U.S. citizenship, which registering an individual to vote in federal elections gives states the tools to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls and penalize officials that knowingly register non-citizens. So the myth is that it'll prohibit married women or anyone who has changed their name from voting. Fact is, this is fake news. Under the SAVE Act, those individuals who have updated their documentary proof of citizenship can also include things like the Real ID, passport. By the way, Real ID has to take effect by the end of this year for everyone. Passport or government issued identification with their place of birth. No action is needed, and they can register to vote. For the small fraction of individuals who have not yet updated their documentation to reflect a name change, which most would immediately do for life purposes, the SAVE Act explicitly directs states to establish a process for them to register to vote, irrespective of those discrepancies. Like any other area of law, citizens will be able to use combinations of existing identification documents, certificates of birth from the state, and other similar documentation to demonstrate citizenship. No one will be left unable to register to vote due to a name change.
Wait, but what about? Didn't Democrats say that black people aren't smart enough to get that? That's what I thought. So are black people going to be able to do this? Are they going to be able to follow it according to Democrats?
You remember that video? I don't know if you saw this video. There was a video of a guy that was like acting like a black dude, acting like a monkey, sniffing around the computers. Did you ever see that?
I have not. No,
because the governor of New York said they don't know how to use computers, don't know how to use cell phones. He made fun of it. And it was brilliant. It was actually brilliant.
But I will say black people, 90% about vote for the Democrats. That needs to change. That's crazy.
But it's not 90%.
Very high rate.
You don't know what it is. And this is the part that I tell everyone. You don't know what it is because there's 25, 30, 35 million people that are either they don't exist or their votes were stolen. They use the same thing in order to raise money so they can launder money through Act Blue. It is the same. So I want to play this because this is Tulsi Gabbard in the middle of a cabinet meeting saying what we already knew. Now remember, stealing of elections led to J6. They led to 4 years of absolute pain and persecutions that are just unquestionably just terrible. Just terrible. Let's go and play this. This is Tulsi.
We're investigating. We have the best of the best going after this. Election integrity being one of them. We have evidence of how these electronic voting systems have been vulnerable to hackers for a very long time and vulnerable to exploitation to manipulate the results of the votes being cast, which further drives forward your mandate to bring about paper ballots across the country so that voters can have faith in the integrity of our elections.
Faith in the elections. Now, the only thing that she said that I think was wrong, because she didn't go far enough, is that they have vulnerabilities to be hacked. But you go back to the ASOG report that happened with Antrim County, and they stated very, very succinctly, these systems were designed to defraud the American voter. Now, as we got into different audits or conversations or across the country, everywhere we looked, it was the same thing. The machines were actually able to do things because they were designed to do that. They were manufactured, and the architecture of those machines was designed to take away the vote of the American people, using PID controllers and so forth. Pretty crazy, huh?
No, I feel like it's ridiculous that we know for a fact constantly across the globe elections are stolen. And yet we're supposed to believe our government, who sells us out constantly, the officials who don't care about us, who would rather put other countries before us constantly, who let the borders stay wide open, they're supposed to be the ones with integrity, who aren't going to cheat. But everyone else can, even in countries where they're actually run better than us. It's a little bit of a big jump to make to assume that.
Yes, Matt, you're at the beginning part of what I could call as a fight. And I could see the trepidation in your eyes. So we're going to talk about that today when we're done with Jeremy. But Jeremy Brown, I want to tell you a little about him because we're going to bring him on, is a J6er. He's a Special Forces Master Sergeant. He served honorably for over 20 years. He took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And he upheld that oath as a Ranger, Green Beret, firefighter, business owner, coach, congressional candidate, and now he was a prisoner of war. He was committed to it for 29 years. He held a top secret security clearance. The FBI came to him and tried to recruit him as a confidential informant. And when he didn't play ball, they went after him. He stood up and went to jail and never complained about it the entire time.
And didn't know if he would get out either.
He did not know.
If Trump didn't win, he would still be in there.
Well, and it's not even that. We're going to go through what he was charged with and how long his sentence was. But you look at the best people in this deal, and they did everything they could to break them. And he was unbreakable. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Jeremy Brown. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the f***ing guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot.
I can't stop laughing. That was hilarious. So I'm not going to waste any more time. We're going to bring Jeremy on. That was hilarious. Jeremy, I don't know if you want to share that last part, make it public, but I thought it was, it's worthy.
Oh, I didn't realize we weren't on. I thought we were on. Okay, yeah.
Oh, no.
You were talking about the ridiculousness of the times for which we live, and I was just simply saying that I have a $1 billion standing reward out there for anyone who can get me pregnant. And you asked if anyone tried in prison. I said no, they had too much respect for me. I also have a standing challenge to Ray Epps' attorneys to charge me with defamation for claiming that he was working for the federal government. So, there's a bunch of standing awards out there. If anybody wants to make some quick money, there's a couple of them.
Yeah. So tell me about the Ray Epps deal.
Well, no, when I had my podcast, The Fusion Cell, which we were running out of the Citrus County Resort for Threats to Democracy, one of the episodes we talked about was Ray Epps and how, he was going after people for defaming him, which is all bullshit, right? I mean, these stories are not true, right? Because who the hell has been sued by Ray Epps? No, they say these things in order to intimidate people that don't actually know how things work in the world. And so I offered the open challenge for Ray Epps' attorneys to contact us at any time with that suit because I was openly saying clearly he was in on it. Otherwise, he would have never wound up on 60 Minutes.
And the way it works is every single media outlet reaches out to Ray Epps, asks him for comment when they're writing stories. He has all of their numbers, and you know what they do? They're going to give him access to legal resources. He could easily use one of these PACs and sue you without even paying out of his own pocket. So I think that right there says more than anything else as to whether or not your claims are true.
Well, let him sue me. I will represent myself. And the first thing I'm going to ask for is discovery.
Well, speaking of discovery, it seems like the J6 committee decided to throw all the discovery out when they had their committee meetings.
Yeah, otherwise you might read it. So we have to get rid of the evidence. Every criminal knows that that's the first thing you do, shred everything. In fact, didn't they just issue this in the USAID email scandal from a couple weeks ago, right? Shred everything, get rid of everything. The good guys are coming. The good guys are coming. Quick, fill up the burn bags, right? I mean, look, and yet nothing happens. Was anybody from USAID arrested? Was the author of that email charged by the FBI with conspiracy to destroy evidence in an investigation? I haven't heard of these arrests, but then again, I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to the news lately.
No, but let me just answer the question for you. Nobody in government is ever charged for anything.
Ever.
I mean, we can go back to the, way back to beforehand when you had Comey. Comey should have been charged.
He still should be.
He still could be. But I mean, not when you have the head of the Washington, D.C. field office, Jensen, the person that was actually persecuting J6ers, and you're putting him in charge. You promote him. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's like with any rigged system in our country, right? I mean, look at the financial crisis of 2008. Who went to jail for that? I mean, no one ever goes to jail for these things. But by golly, if you don't if you have too many parking tickets, you can bet that the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force is going to be swooping down with a Black Hawk to throw you in prison immediately, especially if you're over 70 years old.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest issue, right? Is that we now are in the position of power, the position of authority. And, you know, we've fought for the last 4 years for President Trump. And even if you put President Trump aside, we fought for the sovereignty of a nation that was stolen from us. I mean, is that why you went to Washington? Did you go to Washington because just to hang out with a bunch of people? I think you could probably have done that where you were.
No, I went to Washington because I was assisting the Oath Keepers who had a tactical operation known as Private Security Detail. And I asked them if they needed assistance, and they said, yeah, they could use an extra body. So, I had a bad feeling about what was going to happen up there, but I had no idea it was going to be what it turned out to be. But, that night when I got back to my RV and saw the local news coverage, I knew exactly what had happened and immediately started telling everybody to stop running their mouths on signal or whatever. And oddly enough, none of those conversations were in my discovery from the FBI. Almost every conversation that I had over my phone to other members of the Oath Keepers that was totally exculpatory, that would have totally shown that everything that they were doing was related to security that they were asked to do, and that, I was advising them of certain things. None of those conversations wound up. Only the worst out of context conversations possible. And at my trial in DC, when the government was saying, we're going to introduce this, we're going to introduce that, there was a moment in the courtroom where I said, you know what? Let them introduce anything that they want, because they're not getting out of this. Okay. So let them say whatever they can say. I kicked puppies, that I didn't eat my vegetables, whatever they want to say, let them do it, because they're not going to get out of this. And because all they wanted to do was intimidate people into pleading out, because they didn't want to go to trial. But if they did go to trial, they knew that they had the backstop of completely corrupt judges.
Jeremy, your case was a little bit different because they held you and 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 held you. It was never ending. Right. And then when you were supposed to be released after you got your pardon, they held you longer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they do not want me doing what I'm doing right now. And that's talking to the American people as a free man. And I think that they're still at it, because I just recently applied for a lease. Okay. And in anticipation of what is normal in the leasing process, when you go through reputable leasing agencies, I knew that there was going to be a background check. So I told the real estate agent up front, I said, I want you to know that, and this was a couple weeks ago, so I was still at that time a convicted felon. As of today, I am not a convicted felon. That was resolved on April 2nd, the actual Liberation Day. April 2nd is when the Middle District of Florida, Judge Meriday said that the government's motion to overturn my conviction and then dismiss my indictments with prejudice went through. But before all that happened, I told the agent, I said, I am a convicted felon. And so when you do the background check, that's what's going to come up. But here's all my documentation. And I showed the pardon document. I showed the legal documents from the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. And she called me last week after we were in the house and everything. We were talking, and she says, your conviction never even came up on a background check. So let me ask you, how can somebody be convicted of multiple felonies in federal court in 2022, sentenced in April of 23, serve 1,245 days in federal custody, and yet there's no evidence of that on a background check?
It's fake. I mean, the whole thing's fake. It clearly, every single aspect of this was to convince Americans that if you want to stand up for freedom, if you want to go and do anything against the political class, in my opinion, every single person that day was a hero. Not because necessarily they all acted heroic at all times, but because every person there had the goal in mind of, I want to save my country, and I'm willing to make a sacrifice to do that. And so the punishment that has then since ensued is just to tell a message to everyone else: don't do that. Don't stand up for your country. Don't fight back. don't take risks, don't put yourself on the line. And they've succeeded a lot. And Trump being elected is kind of the revival of them starting to lose that side of the battle again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's making an example of a group of people so that they never try to do that again. If you dissent, this is what will happen to you. I mean, you see it in movies like The Hunger Games, right? Where they drag the guy to the center of the square and they lash him to the pole and beat him in front of everyone so that you all know that if you try doing what they did, we're going to do the same thing to you, only worse. And that's exactly what January 6th, one of the many things that it hoped to accomplish.
So let's, there's, I think one of my issues, Jeremy, is that I followed your case very closely. They said they found grenades, grenades, yet
they knew right where to look.
There's no DNA. There was no DNA. Your DNA. You had supposedly moved this from house to house to house. You had no DNA on it at all. Zero of your DNA. I don't know how you did that.
That's correct. And well, the prosecutor at trial said that I spot cleaned it, right? Except that there's 2 other male DNAs on the grenades. And this is one of the things that we will find out. Because those DNA sample, at least the printed out portions of it, right, are in there. So we can find out whose DNA that was. But see, the FBI wasn't interested in that, right? And allegedly, these grenades were stolen from the U.S. government, the United States Army, and yet there were no charges for theft of government property or theft of government explosives or anything, which is odd because. It's not odd to me because why did they not charge me with that? Because then they would have to prove that they were stolen, and they weren't prepared to do that.
But Jeremy, they also had to admit that you had stolen classified documents. They're like, "Oh, oops, that was a mistake." I mean, come on, this is not even in a normal world. A judge would look at this and go, "You're being railroaded." Like this is a setup.
But we're not in a normal world. I mean, we're in a world where the judge that sat on that case was best friends with Kathy Castor, who was my opponent when I ran for U.S. Congress in 2020. In fact, Kathy Castor allowed Judge Bucklew to hold a gay marriage of her son in Kathy Castor's Washington, D.C. office because at the time, gay marriage was illegal in the state of Florida. So they're not just acquaintances. Right. This is a friend of my former political opponent and made references to this knowledge throughout the trial. In fact, the first time that I ever sat down in a pretrial hearing with Judge Bucklew, she commented on how much different I looked. And yet the way that I had looked for well over 2 years, but she was referring to the fact that she'd only seen pictures of me as a U.S. congressional candidate, not as, many years removed from that. So, the whole system is fixed and rigged and corrupt and all the things that you want to say about it. But we are responsible for holding them accountable for that.
Jeremy, when it gets to when we start talking about the rotted apparatus of our country and being captured by really evil people, that you can only describe it as organized crime. I don't know what else you describe it as.
It's a gang. It's a mob.
It's a mob.
It is. It's no different than the cartels in Mexico, just that they're running a much more sophisticated operation.
But
no, let's use the correct terminology, right? The FBI is a domestic terrorism organization by their own definitions, right? I mean, everything that our enemies do is projection, right? Everything that they say, they're actually doing, right? And so the FBI is running around and calling us all domestic terrorists. But yet, when you look at the statutory definition of domestic terrorism, all 4 elements they conduct on a daily basis. Well, that makes them a domestic terrorist organization.
Yeah, but they yield
sponsored, by the way.
They yield the power, right? They yield the power. And unfortunately, now I just have to get to the hard questions. Jeremy, I've already relented to the fact that if it came down to it, I would fight for my country and I would fight for my countrymen against whoever. And I often, it's a chilling effect that it has on me, because I'm like, what does that actually mean? Like, what am I saying that I'm willing to do? As they steal and they continue to steal, President Trump's back in office. We have our brothers and sisters that are out of jail now from J6, but there are plenty of people that are in bondage because of these radicals and because of the evil that they have possessed and the sword that they yield. So, Jeremy, do you think we're done? Do you think we're at that place now where we're like, okay, we got over that hump, President Trump's in office, now everything will be okay? You think we're there, or do you think that this is probably the shakiest it's been in 260 years?
Of course we're not done. I mean, this has been my main point to people, is that there is this sense of, oh, thank goodness it's all over. Let's celebrate, and move on, right? But it's not over. In fact, that was only the conclusion of phase 2 of my operation. Now I'm on phase 3, which is my turn, right? And so, letting me out of prison, that was only what you're supposed to do, right? But I'm not going to just let it go at that. I should have never been in prison, right? And even if I would have never gone to prison, the FBI and the Department of Defense, who were behind January 6th, and the intelligence community, they should not be allowed to get away with these criminal actions, okay? And so until they are held accountable, and I'm not talking about fake congressional hearings where we say all the quiet things out loud but then do nothing about it. I'm talking about Mark Milley and Christopher Wray and James Comey, or whoever else the scumbags are, and there is a plethora of them, right? I mean, we're going to need a lot of prison vans to carry them all off to the BOP facility within 500 miles of their home address. Until this happens, until I can visit them on the other side of the glass and let them know that I just put $17.76 on their commissary account just so that they know it's me. Until that day happens, I'm not done. And, and we're in the planning phase now of what legal actions and administrative actions can be taken to move the ball down the field towards that touchdown.
And ask Tina Peters, is it done? Ask Rudy Giuliani, who lost almost his entire net worth overnight, is it done? Ask all the people who are currently sitting in prison because they were protesting abortion and got charged with state crimes for that. Is it done? Not only are we not done, I feel like we're at the beginning of a fight. At the very beginning.
I mean, look, I wrestle with myself every day. I wrestle with myself every day because I want vengeance. I mean,
but it's not vengeance. It's justice, right? When crimes are committed, the punishment of that crime is known as justice, right? We know for 100% fact that crimes were committed, and we know that the FBI knows that they commit crimes because they call them otherwise illegal activities, right? This is their official term. They know that they engaged in crimes. It's just a matter that they don't believe anyone's ever going to come after them for it.
Yeah, Jeremy, you were in jail, so I don't want to ever slight the fact that you had to spend over 1,200 days in confinement. But they attacked my wife and my children. Right? What's your biggest fear, Matt? By the way, they're trying to sue Matt. I don't think they haven't done it yet, but they're threatening it.
I have little kids, and what I worry about every day is if something was to happen to them, and I'll protect them with my life, and I will do anything to protect them. But you have to worry, and it sucks because in a fair, free country, you shouldn't have to worry about your kid's safety for what you say online. And the fact that you do is just another point to get across the fact that we are at the beginning of a huge fight. And until we are in a place where we can hold our politicians accountable and where we really have free speech, we're not a free country, not even close.
Well, right, but just know that they want you to worry, right? They want you to be afraid of that next step. They want you to self-censor. They want you to not go to the group because you're afraid of how you might be looked at if it gets if some leftist that's likely sponsored by the FBI, post your information on there. But see, we can't allow that worry and that fear look, I don't want to be in this fight, right? I mean, I took 40 days and did not respond to almost anything or anybody. In fact, I don't go on my X and do anything other than maybe post an update now and then, right? I don't want to do this. I want to enjoy life and have fun and work out and drink beer and everything. But it's like the old saying from The Godfather, I keep trying to get out, but they keep pulling me back in. And, that's what they want. They want to demoralize. They want to scare you into saying, look, it's just easier if I do nothing. And, whether we fall for that or not is up to us.
And I think there's a lot of bravery that's been happening. And I'm going to, no matter what happens, I will fight louder. I will be stronger. No matter what they throw at me, I'm not going to be silent. I'm going to only escalate. There's so much more we can do. And if everyone has that mentality, it's going to render it useless when they try to attack us, when they try to threaten us, when they do things like swatting and everything that's happening and fake lawsuits and things like that are obviously frivolous and have no backing. When they do that, if we get louder as a result of it, if people are able to turn that into a positive thing and use it to influence the country for good, that takes away their power. What do they do then? And that's what I'm most excited about. What was it like though to be home the first day after getting out? What was that like? What was that feeling like?
Oh, well, it's kind of a unique experience for me because I didn't have a home to go to. I'm in my new. I had to acquire a new home. But I will tell you, it was a weird sensation, and I explain this to people. And a lot of veterans, especially big Army veterans, right? That some of their deployments were 12, 18 months. And special operations, our deployments weren't that long, right? I mean, typically, my longest deployment was 6 months, right? But even after that 6 months period of just staring at tan or whatever, mountains or whatever, something that's different than what your home is, you come back after 6 months and you're like, wow, everything is very different, right? Life is different. You don't have a 50 caliber machine gun on top of your car to deal with traffic problems anymore. But this experience being so long, 1,245 days, the word that I kept saying was weird. This is all weird. Cars look different. Phones are different. Television now is different. I mean, when I went into prison, we had a box and you had that you got from your cable company. And you turn now every television has all these apps and everything. So it's surreal. It's a surreal feeling. And meanwhile, everyone around you has incrementally adjusted to all these changes and they don't recognize them. Right. But for me, I have to tell people, oh, slow down. OK, I don't know what you're talking about because in over 3 years, whatever it is that we're talking about, I'd never even heard of. Right. I mean, I didn't know what Yellowstone was. And I know that it existed before I went into jail, but it obviously got more popular in the last 3 years because everywhere you go, there's Yellowstone merch. And I'm like, is that from that television show? So there's just all these little tiny weird things that you have to adjust to.
I think a lot of people too don't understand the extent to which, I mean, everyone obviously gets, you may not have a house to come back to for a lot of people. And you, hopefully, I would imagine, are in a better position, very well put together. A lot of people are just normal, everyday people who aren't necessarily going to have any resources at all when they get out. And they're going to get out and see piles of debt. If you have a family, how's she going to take care of the kids when you're gone? Is there assistance coming to you? And a lot of them also were banned from certain government programs and intentionally taken off them and things like that. So there's still very, very much so ramifications from what happened. There are people who are still in massive debt and having to try to pay it off, who still don't have a home since getting out. And so what happened in regards to J6 is not something that ended when Trump's pardon got signed. I think we're only go ahead.
No, not by a long shot. I mean, and from what I understand, there are numerous organizations that are set up to help J6ers, but the J6er themselves has been in prison, right? Many of these things I had no idea. In fact, just last week I sat down and binge watched a bunch of J6, documentaries, good and bad ones, watch a couple of podcasts, because I've never seen these things, right? And there's all these organizations that I've never heard of. Why? Because I was locked in a 10 by 8-foot cell for 3 years, right? And so, it is very, again, it's very surreal. And yes, people are going to need help, because look, even I went to Fidelity, who I've had a Roth IRA with for nearly 3 decades. And they just closed my account. And then when I said, why did it go? Well, because you violated our terms of service. What terms of services? We don't have to tell you. So you have my funds in your account, but you're not going to allow me to invest them. So the only thing they will allow me to do is withdraw those funds. And they said that my account can never be reinstated. So one of the things I have to do is raise enough money to pay people to pull their money out of Fidelity investments, because ultimately they're just a bunch of anti-American scumbags. But what would you expect from the all-seeing eye investment company?
And that's a signal right there. If you're using Fidelity, and there's other banks too that are doing the same thing, don't use them. There are options, especially local options, that you can use that aren't going to take your freedoms away, at least not as easily. That's an important point.
Well, yeah, and that's right. And we need to talk to each other. And so when I say, yeah, Fidelity turned my account off, but somebody else is like, well, I work with this other company, you should work with them. That's what we have to do in that face-to-face, communication that we need to get back to, that human connection, where we're not always relying on some social media post or a text message that's very impersonal and meant to isolate us, right? We need to get back to having neighborhood parties and having friends over for dinner and things like that. All the things that they told us that we weren't allowed to do during COVID. Well, those are the things that they don't want us to ever do again. And so we need to get back to them. In fact, our new neighborhood here, they're about to have a Cinco de Mayo party, and we're super excited to go and meet people face to face. And it doesn't mean you have to go there and start rip-roaring and everything about politics. Get to know people, make them, make friends, and then talk to them about things and say, hey, Fidelity shut my account off. And when they say, well, we bank with Fidelity, let's say, well, we switched over to this company. Maybe you guys should too. So we need to get back to having human relationships rather than just doing everything on some Black Mirror.
Are you going to run for office?
Did you say run from office? Yes, I'm going to run from office as fast and far as I can, Joe. Thank you for reminding me that thing I've got to do on my checklist here. Yep, run from office. Yep.
Are you going to run for office?
No, because politicians get us into messes. They do not get us out of messes, right? Politicians are employees, okay? I want to be the owner. I don't want to be the minimum wage worker. Not that there's anything wrong with minimum wage workers, but I tell them what to do as the owner. They don't tell me what to do. And that's where I want to be. And I want everyone else to realize that this is the relationship that we should have with our politicians, not some sycophantic fan club, pom-pom waving, oh, they're so handsome or she's so pretty type of relationship. We need to have a what have you done for me lately relationship with them. We need to have daily staff meetings where you say to your politician, I sent you an email that said I wanted this done. What's the status of that email, right? This is how we should treat our politicians. And if they're not going to respond to that type of relationship, well, then we need to get rid of them.
You're fired. That's what needs to happen.
You're fired. You're fired.
Well, hey, do it. Start firing people, right? I mean, look, I said a year or so ago when people started to ask about the pardon, because look, Americans really did rely on, oh, Trump's going to pardon you, because it's easy to say that when you're not the one in jail, right? But I never thought I was going to get pardoned, and I was proven to be, proven. Everyone else is getting out, and I'm still sitting there, and everyone's like, hey, why aren't you getting out? I was like, well, because I have a recording. That's why. But I used to say, look, I'll accept a pardon as long as it's accompanied with an FBI directorship nomination, right? Because if you want to fix an organization, well, then put somebody in there that isn't in love with the organization, that believes that it's corrupt. And, we've been told that Mr. Patel is that person. Okay, well, we need to establish a timeline, and we need to establish a list of things that we expect to be done. Like if there's no one in handcuffs within 6 months of you being at the FBI, well, then we're going to have to start looking for a new FBI director, because that is a result, right? As a wise person once used the phrase, evidence of outcomes, right? We can talk all day long. We can go on Fox News or Newsmax or One America or CNN or wherever you want to go, and we can say all day long about how we're going to fix this and we're going to fix that. Okay, shut up and show me, okay? And when I see the headline that says the Department of Justice today indicted this person and that person for their role in the unconventional warfare military coup known as January 6th, when I see media outlets, which in fact I just saw one, a suit that was just awarded a default judgment of like $185 million against, I believe it was a media outlet or somebody. I have to look at the headline. Somebody sent it to me. But until we start to see these types of results, holding those responsible accountable, whether it was the bureaucrats, whether it was the law enforcement agents, whether it was the political appointees, or whether it was the heads of media companies who were responsible for fabricating this American Reichstag attack on the people of this country, well, then those aren't results. It's just talk. It's just bloviating. It's just, running your suck. Okay. And I expect more than that, because, I gave 1,245 days of my life behind bars. And then months before that, trying to get the word out that they were going to do that. And I'm not done. It's not good enough to just let me out of jail and overturn your false conviction. I want accountability.
All right. So what does accountability look like to you?
Arrest. There were criminal statutes broken by members of the federal government, by members of state governments, by members of local governments, by prosecutors, by judges.
They planted evidence on you, right? So someone should go to jail for that too, right?
Somebody did. Somebody got an illegal search warrant.
In any other case, that would have been enough by itself in order to toss this case on its head.
Our motion to suppress wasn't even given a hearing. I mean, so how can you judge the worthiness of a motion if you don't even grant it a hearing, right? Whatever.
Jeremy, do you feel like you're in a slave environment almost? I mean, like everybody in the country is just, we're just slaves, where they can do it to us whatever they want, and they got the mechanisms to inflict as much pain as they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like you're irrelevant almost.
Of course, that's why I said I'm in disguise as a semi-free man.
So then what's the
veneer of freedom, right? It looks like freedom, and yet somehow, what's that?
Do we build the fraternity? Do we build the fraternity of free men?
That's what they're scared of.
That's ultimately what they're scared of. The reason why they don't like 3%ers, the reason why they don't like Proud Boys, the reason why they don't like these groups is because we refuse not to be free men. We will be free men, period.
Well, right. What do you think? What do you think the bounty was on the Sons of Liberty?
A lot. But
right.
we're dealing in a different world, right? Because they get to lie with impunity. They have the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act that says they can lie to their people. They can make up whatever they want. They can lie.
They can spy. They can do anything. We were talking about getting a Roomba vacuum cleaner, right? And I'm like, well, we can't get certain models because they collect data that is then sold and purchased by the government. The government admits that, well, one, we illegally spy on you through the NSA. We lie about it in front of Congress. But then they also buy our data that's being sold, and they admit that, well, we buy it because then that way we get around all these other rules and regulations pertaining to it. And yet it is it's like you said at the beginning of this, you're reporting on things that are so absurd, right? Yeah. My favorite one is Christopher Wray basically bragging when he says, oh yeah, we know we violated the Fourth Amendment by illegally surveilling 1 million times this year, but hey, this year we only did it 300,000 times, right?
And they don't even need a Roomba. They have drones now where they can listen to you without you being even able to know the drone is there.
Matt, here's the thing. They have built a Soviet-style snitch spy society, right? I mean, look at how often the DOJ touted and bragged about social media tipsters, right? You have a Sixth Amendment right to face your accuser. Do you know how many identities I was provided with in my trial of people that the FBI and DOJ put into official court filings or in discovery of somebody online claiming something that they obviously used in their investigation? Do you know how many identities I was provided for who that person was? 0, right? Well, that's a violation of my right to face my accuser, okay? The FBI and the DOJ use this snitch society that they've built around the principles of Marxism and communism. And look, read Alexander Solzhenitsyn's book, The Gulag Archipelago. And this is exactly the way it was then. Everyone is so afraid for their family that they'll snitch on the family next door. Because if I tell the party who the other bad guys are, maybe they won't come after me, right? And this is exactly what they've built here in America.
So I'll ask you again, a fraternity of free men. If you're not running for office, should we be building a fraternity of free men?
By fraternity of free men, you mean like-minded individuals that get together and say, no, we're not going to tolerate this. And whatever my politician is telling me is not good enough. Well, then absolutely, we should have been doing that all along.
Yeah. So here's the here's what I'm saying. And look, I'll take it even further, because I think that, we are law-abiding people. Like we believe in a society of laws. We believe in a society of doing the right thing, not breaking the law, not stealing or coveting your neighbor or doing any of those things. Like we're good people. We believe in the system of laws, but that's not what we have anymore. And so, during COVID, I had a friend that they showed up at his business and threatened to arrest and shut him down. So we showed up with 100 men, and we were all armed. And we was like, yeah, get out. We told the cops, get out. And they're like, well, we can get you for obstruction. You can get us for whatever you want, but you're not coming near our friend's business. This is our brother. He's trying to make a living for his family. And my problem is, Jeremy, is that we have literally sat on the sidelines and asked permission to be men. We'd asked permission. You were locked up for 1,245 days. I'm more pissed off that you being locked up for 1,245 days than I think you are. You probably have your dark days, but I'm pissed.
Trust me, you're not more pissed than I am. But no, you're absolutely right, right? And this is what they've tried to make everyone afraid of, right? This is all, look, this goes back to look at the demonization of the Second Amendment, right? They have conditioned people to believe guns are bad, right? Because see, that's what the tyrant wants you to think that guns are bad, right? They want, look at what Joe Biden said, right? Oh, you're going to need an F-15 if you want to take down the government. Well, no, you don't, right? If that was the case, then there would be a Special Forces MOS for F-15 pilot, okay? They want you to believe things that aren't true, because if you were to actually believe the things that are true, which is that you're responsible for your own safety and your community's own safety, like you just expressed in that example, and you show up and say, no, you're not going to do that here. Well, they don't want that, because they want to be able to shoot you in the face or put their boot on your face anytime they want. And so, no, we should absolutely be building these types of agreements within our community. And we should be working with sheriffs, who are the only politician out there that is elected to be able to carry a gun. We need to be electing sheriffs. And the single issue you should ask your sheriff is, if the FBI shows up in our county with illegal intentions, will you stop them? And if they say no, well, then don't elect that guy, right? But we have the ability through numbers, because you made the point, right? If you show up, look, if the day that they raided me, 30 people would have gathered around them, they would have ran off like a bunch of bitches, okay? They get away with it because, and again, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and this is a quote, and I don't have it in front of me, but one of his quotes from his book was exactly that thing. If we would have only, grabbed a hammer or whatever and made it more difficult for them to do these things, well, then eventually nobody would want to go out on their little stupid pretend to be Delta Force raids, because they'd be like, no, I think I'm going to take this weekend off. You give it to the rookie, right? Because it would not be worth it, right? And I'm not calling for violence against law enforcement, but I am calling for the preparedness to conduct self-defense when you stand on your property and say, no, you're not coming here unless you're following the rules. And if they try to go beyond that, well, now you're dealing with a self-defense issue.
Yeah, but what are the rules?
I think the courts have found that.
Yeah. But the problem is the courts are captured. The judiciary is actually our number one problem in this country. It's run by ideologues and people that frankly don't care about the Constitution. It's been proven over and over and over again. But because they've made it so expensive, they made the ability to get to a point where you can hold a bad judge responsible for their bad behavior almost impossible. So they have a rigged system that stops the American people from getting a grievance, a redress of their grievances at every level, and there's no consequences for them. They locked you up for 1,245 days, and these pieces of shit get promoted. Like I'm
and reelected.
And rich. That's important.
And rich.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah, they're staying in the $2,000 a night hotel while you're staying in prison. And that's the reward they get for punishing you unfairly.
They had 15 prosecutors against my one defense attorney for 2 misdemeanor counts. I mean, yes, look, it's completely a rigged system. And you're absolutely right. We have to come together and stand up against them, no matter what your issue is that you choose, right? And whether it's maybe some government official comes and tells you can't water your lawn on Tuesday. We have to start saying, get the hell off my lawn, right?
Yeah.
You don't control me. And this is and if we do it, it will work. And this is what they know. This is why they want to censor, they want to limit, they want to continue to intimidate us so that we don't do what they know that if we do, we'll win. And that is come together, like you said, under whatever label no matter what the label is, right? Look, they didn't like it when school board parents showed up in mass, and they weren't even in unison. These are just individuals all showing up to the same event with the same beliefs and philosophies, and look how scared they were. They were so scared that they started calling them terrorists, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anytime it happens, but we have to force it to happen. Instead of saying we don't want to go there because the FBI might show up, we need to start saying, let's go there so the FBI shows up. In fact, I want to actually create a piece of merch called the FBI banana in the tailpipe, right? It's going to be a squishy banana, right? Just like in Beverly Hills Cop, so that when you see the FBI agents there in their Suburbans that you're paying for, it'll be the latest model year Suburban. You can guarantee that. You squish up the banana, you stick it in their tailpipe, and then you post a sign with a big arrow that says, this is an FBI agent, right? And then walk off or film them. They really hate it when you film or record them. So until we start ringing the bell and yelling shame, shame, shame every time we see them, well, then they're going to continue to get away with what they're getting away with. We need to want the confrontation with them because we're right and they're wrong.
See, I know you've been in prison too long when your idea is to put squishy bananas in tailpipes. That's you've been in prison way too long.
It's going to work, damn it.
All right.
All right. Hey, so Jeremy, I'm sorry it's
No, don't apologize for getting upset at these criminals. Look, this is what we need. You're exactly right. I mean, look, you have to remember that I'm happy to be able to sit here and see you for once. I mean, one of the things that I've been joking about is, man, that guy does not look like what I thought he looked like, because all these interviews and everything I've done were over jail phones that I could barely hear on. And so don't think that my being tickled pink to be able to see your bright shining faces is any indication that this isn't a serious fight. It is a serious fight, but we are winning. Okay. And this is another incremental thing too, that you guys might not realize. We are winning, right? And I've had this discussion with my new girlfriend, right? Because see, one of the first things that I did when I got free was I was invited to a Hillsborough County Republican Executive Committee meeting. I know, sounds exciting, right? But when I ran for Congress in 2020, the topics that were discussed at these lame political sycophant type of gatherings were way drastically different. In fact, in this one meeting, 3 topics were geoengineering, right? Resolutions against geoengineering, resolutions for medical liberty as it pertains to additives to the water. And there was one other one I can't remember, but all 3 of the topics just 4 years ago would have been deemed conspiracy theory topics, because that's what they call anything that they don't want you to talk about, right? And yet here we are in the Republican Executive Committee meeting with not just discussions about these topics, but actual resolutions being voted on and passing around these topics. So that is a major cultural shift in the political landscape, and it is a good sign. Is it enough? No way. It's not nearly enough, but it is an indication of positive direction, and we just have to keep the pedal to the metal.
We can't be scared, but we also have to be careful and calculated, because they're going to set so many traps, and they've already set many, and people have fallen into them. So it's an uphill battle. But at the end of the day, the idea that you need an F-15 to take on the government is ridiculous, because let's say someone's standing up for the right thing and the order's made, all right, this person's sitting there with their family, go drop a bomb on them. You think that person in the military is going to listen to orders in that case when they know morally it's wrong? How many people are there in the U.S. military who will stand up for what's morally right over what they're told to do? I think it's a surprising number, more than 50%. And when you look at police officers, same thing.
I think way more people would drop that bomb than you think. I mean, but this is all cultural conditioning as well. Look, I have what's called, the true believer syndrome, right? How many decades did we run around the world chasing ghosts under the guise of global terrorism, right? I mean, guys believe what they're told when they're in that bubble, right? I mean, when they're in the skiff and they're told that's a bad guy, they believe it. There's not a bunch of questioning of whether this guy did what the intel says he did or not. It's, okay, roger that. You get on the helicopter, you go kick their doors in, right? And sadly, I think there's a lot of that still. I mean, and then you look at the purge of the military and law enforcement across the nation, where they're doing stupid things that force good people out and then reduce recruiting numbers to prevent good people from coming in. I mean, they are building militaries that will do exactly what they say. And I think Hitler did the same thing. He would hire bums off the street to serve as law enforcement officers. Why? Because they paid them and they're hungry. And so they would basically do whatever they want, right? And so they want to build this type of culture. They want a military that just does things without questioning. They want a military that swears an oath to the Constitution and yet has never read the Constitution, so that when they tell them to break the Constitution, they have no problems with it. Just like the agents that came and tried to recruit me to spy on American people. They should have known that that is illegal, but they don't know, or they don't care.
So we, what's next? What's next for you? What are you doing now? What are you?
Well, I'm still
besides working on your tan.
I'm definitely working on that. I was so pasty white. I think I got a sunburn in the first 5 minutes.
You walked outside.
Right. But Yeah, you can see the video when I first walked out. It wasn't pretty, right? I felt like Vincent Vega and Jules Winfield in Pulp Fiction after having to have their meeting with the wolf and get the new clothes. But I'm slowly still reintegrating back in. My retirement benefits and my VA were screwed with, so I've got to fix those things. There's a lot of personal issues that I have to work through. I mean, I'm still unpacking boxes. I still don't have all my stuff recovered yet. So, but it is definitely our intent. In fact, I've affectionately named it Task Force Misfit Toys because I am building a team of legal minds and J6 activists and J6ers and law enforcement experts and private investigators and everything. And we are going to build these cases to bring, whether it be in the court of law, the court of a public opinion, or whatever, whether it support other people that are doing the same things, but we are not going to let them off the hook. And so we are going to strategically plan out and ensure that accountability is brought to them in one way or another. And I think the ultimate accountability will be when criminals are serving their sentence for violating their public trust.
Some of their sentences are going to be really short, though. I mean, a life sentence for Nancy Pelosi is like a couple years. It's not even going to take up that much prison space, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, let's put her on home confinement, and her and her husband and whatever lovers he invites over. We'll just make sure they don't have hammers this time.
Pretty crazy stuff. Jeremy, I want to say thank you. And I know you have good days and I know you have bad days, because 1,245 days is a long time to give to something that nobody had the right to take from you.
How many days in solitary was of that?
No, look, I spent most of my time in Florida where, the staffs were pretty much, supportive and knew about my story. I spent 3 days in solitary over, one little spat that I had with somebody, but it all resolved in my favor. So, there were guys that were, that did face those types of retributions just because of what they were tied to. And so, I didn't spend a lot of days in solitary, but look, there's not much difference between solitary and, a regular day in the DC jail. I mean, in the DC jail, you're only out, if the guards deem so, you're only out 2 to 5 hours anyway every day. So pretty much, most of the time it's solitary. And then, there were other considerations where I self-isolated because, I don't want to, find some extra person in the shower with a super sharp toothbrush trying to see how many holes I need in my body. So,
is that a real thing?
Look, shivs in jail are like Rolexes on the outside. They're just status symbols. Who's got the most number of weapons that weren't confiscated in the last shakedowns? So yeah, it is a real thing. I mean, jails are not nice places. I mean, I've seen stabbings and, people dying and look, it's not the place you want to hang out.
They didn't mess with you much. Days. They didn't mess with you much, though, did they?
Well, no, they didn't mess with me, and it's not because you go in there like in the Hollywood. They say go in there and punch the biggest guy. No, it doesn't work that way. I mean, you'd be surprised how civilized jail can be if you are respectful and guys help each other. A lot of guys would come to me and have questions about their cases and things like that, and because I didn't just treat them like pieces of garbage because of their criminal history. And I actually explained to them that in almost every single case, their rights were violated by this government. I earned a level of respect, and guys that had been in there longer said, hey, if you got a question about the law, go talk to that guy. So, it is an environment that, I'm specially selected and well-trained to be able to, manipulate, for lack of a better word, right? Because I know where I am and I know what I need to do in order to survive in that environment. And so that's exactly what I did.
Did you make any good friends? Did you make any good friends while you were in there?
Yeah, of course. you have no choice but to make good friends, right? And you spend a lot of time next to individuals in close proximity. You're either going to be best friends, or you're going to be enemies. And so it's always better to make friends rather than enemies in prison.
Yeah, well, and it's you have circumstance in everyone's life, and you never know if they're in the same thing you are, just in a different parallel, I guess. Well, Jeremy, thanks for coming on with us. How do people follow you?
Of course. Well, all my websites are still going to be up. There's jeremybrown.defense.com. Like I said, we're going to continue this fight. It's not over for me. So we're going to continue to need resources so we can go after these criminals and hold them accountable. And then whoisjeremybrown.com. And now that I'm out, I'm going to have more influence on how these websites are focused. And I do have an X page, but I'm really just I'm not going to get on there and engage in this nonsense of constant trolling or talking about things. I choose to be in the real world and talk to real people. But we will post interviews like this. We'll repost them on that X page so people can follow us there if they want a one-stop shop for what interviews are being done out there. But for the most part, we're going to put our head down and we're going to start building these cases, and with the single focus of ensuring that there is accountability for what not only happened to me, but also all the J6ers that were caught up. And not just the J6ers, but the American people were victims of this too. And, the American people should get involved and support all your J6ers and all the different organizations that are trying to help them rebuild their lives. And then, of course, the other political prisoners that are still being held, like Tina Peters. I've not had a lot of time to get into her case, but I am aware that there's a movement saying that she also needs to be released, and she absolutely should be, because whistleblowers should not be able to be punished simply for exposing the acts of the criminals.
Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, thanks for coming on. We'll pray for you afterwards for sure. And thanks for again. I don't even know how to say thank you for your service the first time, but then your service in 1,245 days sets a standard for the reason why we need to stay focused on taking back our nation. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, but we're all in it together. So, your ideas are good. We need to come together as a people and say, we're not going to accept this. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. Nice talking to you, Matt. And, let's do it again sometime.
All right. God bless you.
Thanks, sir.
He's an amazing man.
He
really is. If our government was full of guys like that, we wouldn't have any problems. I mean, at least not 99% of the ones we have now.
20 years. 20 years he gave. He gave 20 years. It's hard not to get angry, though, when you think about 1,245 days is what he gave. I mean, there's no easy part of that. There's no coming back from that. So let's switch gears for a minute. I want to talk about the real emotional feelings that you go through, because TMZ doesn't care. The New York Times don't care. They sought out this person, this dude, sought out the ability to make people suffer, use lawfare against you. They haven't reached you yet. It might be bunk, might not, right? It may not serve you. They may serve you. But they doxed you, right?
I know nothing about it so far, but obviously in situations where...
But the news articles doxed you.
News articles have been posting lots of information and trying to... With their goal, I don't feel personally at risk. I don't think anyone's going to be able to necessarily take that and do anything bad to me or my family with it. But at the same time, that's what their goal was. And it's obvious. If you look at some of these articles and how they're portraying it, they're attempting to get someone who's crazy to come and hurt my family. That's what they want to happen. And I will say this right now publicly. If anyone does show up trying to hurt my family, they're not going to be alive the next day. I'm just going to put that out there as clearly as possible. And I want everyone to understand that being scared of that is not the right thing. Being prepared for it is. And so when especially when you get singled out of so many people,
millions
of people, and you're the one person that gets singled out. It's obvious what it is. It's an attempt to try to hurt, to try to silence, to try to scare. And they don't care about safety. They don't care if my kids are able to go to school. They don't care about that. And just shows how evil these people are.
They attacked my wife viciously. So much so that she had to sell off her company. So they did that to my wife. So they attacked my children. Right? So these are cowards. Now yours is different because this is just a post. This is just how do they defame you? How do they get their ounce of flesh off of you? But the concept's still the same. And frankly, I said before that I want vengeance, and Jeremy corrected me and said, "No, we want justice." And but there's a plethora of emotion that goes through you when the attacks start, and you can't help but feel like there's something will click inside of you, and when it clicks, it's a big click, right? And that is you have to protect your family, right?
At all costs.
At all costs. But should they, in a country like ours, be able to say that you have to call a man a woman, you can't misgender them, that they can dox you in public,
go in the bathroom with your daughters,
yeah. And I had a guy that was on the left that was on here a couple of days ago, Patrick Riley. Super nice to me, but I started to figure out really quickly that he didn't care about certain things because it didn't relate to him. He doesn't have kids, right? So he doesn't care about what they do to somebody else's daughter. And so you can tell the difference between selfish people and selfless people that care about their community and people that don't. And you have a beautiful family. And so the idea that somebody could, that the media can weaponize the way that they did against you. I mean, how do you feel about that?
It just shows that there's still an apparatus in place that's designed to punish anyone who they don't like. And it's not about what you say or how you say it, or even if there's any legitimacy behind anything. It's about making sure that if you're going to speak out against the system, if you're going to speak out about people who currently have power who shouldn't, you will be punished. That's what the message is. And it's amazing how they all work in unison. It's not just going to be one article. It's going to be every single major mainstream publication all at once. And it's going to be videos and pundits and people who are paid by someone else to say what they're supposed to say. And if they cross the line or they don't say what they're supposed to say, what happens? They get fired. It's crazy. And X has been a huge important step in trying to reverse that and in trying to put power back to the people. But we're still a long way away.
I'm not sure that Elon won't get involved in your case specifically. I'm not sure he won't, because he believes so strongly in the First Amendment. I mean, they called him a Nazi on TV. You just pointed out the fact that, allegedly, I'm going to just tell you what everybody else said. But you pointed out the fact that a dude dressing up like a woman that is flying around government helicopters. So a mentally ill person is flying around saying that I'm a woman who's not. And that now is acceptable, and that might have led to the over 100 people dying. I don't think it is. Not only do I think it's a nothing burger, but the fact that the media could walk by just basic facts to get to a place where they basically defamed you.
So many lies, even coming directly from the mass of people who are supposed to have some sort of accountability, just straight up lying, provably false lies over and over and over again, and being spread. I mean, there's a remarkable level of just pure evilness within these people who run these institutions to where they don't care. if something happened to my family, they wouldn't even bat an eye. Even if they knew it was their fault, they would not care. And to have people like that who are so powerful, that's why we need a fraternity.
Yeah.
That's why we need people to band together and to stand up to them. Smart people who are going to, no matter what, stand up on principle and who are going to take the fight back to them and build institutions to rival theirs. That's what needs to happen.
All right. Well, we're at the end. I was going to go through a bunch of other stuff, but I want you to know that I got your back, Matt. 1,000%. I have your back.
That means a lot.
And there is a point by which you have to, this is going to be the hardest part for you, is the initial fight, because there's a fear of loss. No matter what happens, there's a fear of loss. And then you're going to become angry. And then that anger is going to turn to frustration, because I'm curious to see what jurisdiction they're actually suing you in, because I don't think I saw that. But if the jurisdiction is in the state level, then it would have to be in the area that is competent to where you live, and you don't live in Denver. So
I'm not a citizen currently of Colorado, actually.
So that makes it much more difficult for them, right? Because then jurisdiction, they have to chase you, which is really good, right? Which is really good. But you're going to go through a couple of ups and downs on the emotional scale, and then it'll level off, and then you'll be fine. It'll be fine. All right. A couple things that I just want to put out there to kind of clean things up. I've never been a fan of Chris Krebs. That piece of trash could literally just light on fire, and I wouldn't go across the street to put him out. And by the way, I have a thing where even my enemies deserve a chance to live. He is one of the people that was on that CISA call the day before the election on November 2nd. On that call was also a man named Eric Coomer. He was the one that was on that Antifa call. So you got the Antifa guy that's literally on with Chris Krebs the day before the election on November 2nd, and was closely related to the government in this cover-up of stealing the election. But President Trump has revoked his security clearance and has directed the DOJ to investigate him for his role in the stolen 2020 election. You cannot have the person that is suing me, Eric Coomer, directly related to and suing President Trump and suing Trump's campaign and suing Giuliani and suing Gateway Pundit. All the people that have been standing up, this little piece of trash has been suing. And I went through a very, very lengthy explanation of what happened in order to get me to the point where I was able to identify Coomer. But he puts this out, which I think is really good. This is President Trump talking about this executive order, and frankly, this made me smile a lot, because then I feel like, all right, we're pushing up against the 90 days. That means another executive order is going to come out, because they've already done some of this groundwork. They've already done some of the groundwork related to this executive order, which means they are going to arrest people. It is coming. Patrick Byrne said it clearly. Get lawyered up. Jenna Griswold, Jared Polis, and we're going to free you, Tina. But let's go ahead and play this part with President Trump.
Christopher Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position against free speech in the election context, in the context of COVID-19. A presidential memorandum to the one you just signed. It assurances he might have, and further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts that he participated in while he was still head of CISA.
This is another one. I don't know that I met him. I'm sure I met him, but I didn't know him. And he came out right after the election, which was a rigged election, a badly rigged election. We did phenomenally in that election. Look what happened to our country because of it. Open borders, millions of people coming into our country. Russia and Ukraine, that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Afghanistan, the way that they withdrew with 13 dead, but so many killed, actually. I mean, so many killed outside of the 13 soldiers, hundreds of people killed. And maybe, I I don't know, never mentioned, but I mentioned it, 42 or 43 people so badly injured, the legs, the arms, blown off, the face. And this is all because of an incompetent group of people that preceded us, and that would have never happened. And this guy Krebs was saying, oh, the election was great, it was great. Well, it's been proven that it was not only not great. When you look at all these lawyers and law firms that are signing, giving us hundreds of millions of dollars, it was proven by so many different ways in so many different forms, from the legislatures not approving to the that worked, from all of the different scamming operations. It was a very corrupt election. They used COVID to cheat. And we're going to find out about this guy too, because this guy's a wise guy. He said, we've been proved this is the most secure election in the history of our country. No, this was a disaster. And frankly, we should go to paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and one other thing, you should get a little certificate that says you're a citizen of our country. You get a citizen piece of paper that says you're a citizen before you can vote. But you want voter ID and you want paper ballots, and you really want same-day voting. If you don't have same-day voting, they decide to change the air conditioner. Oh, we're fixing the air conditioner. Let's move all these boxes. We'll bring them back in a few days. And then they don't bring back those boxes. We got to have safe elections. We have to have borders. Ideally, we have to have a free press, which we don't have. We don't have a free press. We have a very dishonest press. This is an honor. We're going to find out whether or not he was right. This was a disgraceful election, and this guy sat back saying, well, I'm a member, or like he's a Republican or something, and almost right from the beginning. And he's tried to make the case that this election was a safe election. I think he said, this is the safest election we've ever had. And yet, every day you read in the papers about more and more fraud that's discovered. He's the fraud. He's a disgrace. So we'll find out whether or not it was a safe election. And if it wasn't, he's got a big price to pay. And he's a bad guy. Here's another one. I have no idea who he is. Krebs. I have no idea who he is. I'm sure he was in the room at some point, just like you're all in the...
What do you think?
Sounds like he's finally starting to stand up in a way that Kash Patel isn't. Trump's doing more right now to hold these people accountable than Kash, and I think that's a very big disappointment. I feel tricked by Kash Patel. I feel like he talked a huge talk before getting in that position, and now that he's there, he's not going after these people. What's the big case that he's currently working on? Are there any of them? Are there any powerful people who the Biden administration would never touch, who the Trump first administration would have never touched, that he's going to try to hold accountable? Is he going to call out people on the Epstein client list and really bring charges? Is he going to try to, at the very least, shed some light, legally speaking, on some of the biggest tragedies in history? And if they were really as we were told, that's what he said he would do. Is he doing it? I don't see it happening. So I'm glad at least Trump is sticking to the principle, and hopefully he's going to be able to carry a lot of weight when it comes to that.
Yeah, I want to play this. I just put it in the thing, Apollo. What Matt is referring to is the what Kash Patel said about what he would do with the FBI. And so if we can play that video real quick, I think this is kind of a jumping in the middle of it. But he made some promises, and those promises were not honored.
He doesn't even seem like he's trying
at all. Let's go ahead and try it. Let's go ahead and play it. All right. Yeah, that by itself is, but Dan Bongino said the same thing, and now they're together, and they're like, wow, it's more complicated than that. We're going to go out there and just persecute people on the that are breaking the law across the country, but you haven't made anybody pay for what they did to the American people. Let's go and play it.
Then we need to decrease what I call government creep with personnel. The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big And the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers and rapists and drug dealers and violent offenders. What do you need 7,000 people there for? Same thing with DOJ. What are all these people doing here? Looking for their next government promotion, looking for their next fancy government title, looking for their parachute out of government. So while you're bringing in the right people, you also have to shrink government.
So massive government reform.
Yeah. And you got to work with Congress to eliminate the billets. This is one of the things we did when I was deputy DNI. We got to DNI and I was like, okay, what do all these people do? We've got the CIA, so why do I have analysts doing the CIA's job here? Why do I have a floor of them? Like, give me a good answer. I don't know everything. I don't know a lot. But if you can give me an answer that satisfies their existence, I'm all in. Well, we just have our own people. Okay, well, now we don't. And we went to Congress and zeroed out a bunch of billets, and they hated us for it.
Why? Why would Congress hate you for that?
Not Congress, the public. Congress is like, great, you saved us money. You're the only agency that returned money this year because we didn't spend our entire budget. We were literally funding seats with no humans in them for years. And what the government creep that I was talking about is these agencies go to Congress every year. And again, this is why it's a thing of decades. I need 5 more seats here. I need 10 more seats here. Okay, you keep doing that. How's that going? Oh, we'll fill that seat next year. We're in the process of, interviewing people for that section. And that keeps, no one returns money. It's the biggest fiction in government that you can't return money. Every agency and department that I've ever worked for, when it comes to the fiscal end of the year, they're like, go on trips, go spend money. What? Just give it back to Congress. We can't do that.
I thought I heard him say day one, didn't he? Maybe did I mishear? Did he say day 200?
Yeah,
did he say day one?
He said day one, and I would give him more time than that, but show us something.
Right.
But
show
you
us
put
you're at least trying.
But you put Jensen in as the station chief for the FBI, and I'm thinking to myself, how in the world does that make you legitimately? And look, I want to give him grace, but there are people in the FBI, people on the outside of the FBI that have said, this is the guy that caused all this pain for all these people. And you promote him. And he looks like a derelict too. Ugh. Irritating.
Yeah, and one of the reasons it's important to call him out, maybe that fire that he showed at the beginning, maybe it's still in there. Maybe it'll come out. I'm not hopeful at this point. But maybe if enough of us are speaking up about it, maybe he will do some of the things he promised. I mean, that's the very least he owes to us. Now that we made sure he got in that position through public support, he owes it to us.
Well, I can tell you that President Trump is doing his part. I think President Trump is talking about things. He's got people chirping in his ears about how to make safe and secure elections that don't understand system architecture. So I'm hoping that changes. But you want to get to some funny stuff?
That sounds like a great way to move on from that very, very, very hard to talk about topic because they're screwing up our government again.
Yeah. Again. Let's show you President Trump right now. D1.
Problem with that? You know what you should do? You should sanction me. Sanction me with your army. Oh, wait a minute. You don't have an army. I guess that means you need to shut the fuck up. That's what I do if I don't have no army. I would fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
You're going to have so many bleeps that you have to do, Apollo, to send this anywhere? Oh, it's crazy. Huh? So that's Trump right now. And then, you know what else? I got to play this. This is Donald Trump, the original gangster. Let's play it.
I used to think the Democrats were crazy for saying that men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. Well, I'd better wrap up because Mayor Adams told me earlier that I needed to make this one very quick, especially the city has reserved this room for a large group of illegal aliens coming in from Texas. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. A major issue in this race is child care, and Kamala has put forward a concept of a plan. A lot of people don't like it. The only piece of advice I would have for her in the event that she wins would be not to let her husband, Doug, anywhere near the nannies. Just keep him away. That's a nasty one. Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
Oh, it just gets better. Okay, but did you know that we've already brought the word retard back?
I mean, that's great. Retard is officially back.
It's back, but it's always been there. You didn't know.
Is the N-word coming back? I mean, is
No,
I don't think that's going to stay
just,
away. Okay,
just retard.
Okay, just checking. Just
Okay,
making sure. Okay.
So the retard word is it's been back. It never went anywhere. What if I told you that? What if I told you it never went away, ever?
I'm interested to hear more. I mean, it seemed to me like it went away.
Wait, see, no, it did not. It did not go away. It just, it was chameleon. It was hiding in plain sight. Play it. Plain sight.
Y'all gotta forgive me, I'm a little distracted. This is the first show I've ever done with an interpreter. This is fucking cool right now. Well, I'm trying to learn shit. Retard. 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 Democrat. Democrat. This is the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I knew it. Democrat. Democrat. Retard. Retard. Democrat. Dude, you gotta be kidding me. Are you kidding me? I did not set this up, Democrat. Democrat. It's the same thing. I quit.
You didn't know it was there the whole time.
The whole time. It was right in front of us. We didn't even know.
Democrat, retard, Democrat. Come on, you have to admit, that's pretty funny.
I stand corrected.
Okay, so I'll just quickly go through some comments, just like I say. I did. Sorry, guys, I got really distracted. Yeah, mad in the house. And let's see if you guys have anything fun to say to me. What do we got here? We got it on there? Retard became synonymous with communist and liberal. Yep. Retardocrat. My sides are splitting. The scuttlebutt. Yeah, it is kind of crazy. I can't go all the way back. Hey, if Jensen is smart, he would cut a deal. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Yeah. Joe, what about forgot? Yes, I want to bring that back too. Forgot's got to come back. If you don't know what I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to keep it clean. PG.
Am I allowed to say it? I'll say it. I mean, are we going to get demonetized or something if I say? I'll say it.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I don't want to demonetize the show. It's not worth it.
All right. Hey, listen, we're going to see you guys soon. Have a great weekend. I'm going to pray us out if I can. And yeah. Tom. What? Hold on. He definitely knows. Okay, you guys are all talking about, you're still on Jensen. I got Gammy Sparkles. Did you get the testimonies in the middle of the night to POTUS and the gangster in the trenches today? I did not. I'll look at it though. Joe, I need one of those hats. Okay, so since we keep selling out of the hats, I've got a new thing of hats that just came in. You can get the hat. This is the Untamed hat. People ask me, what does the Untamed hat mean? Yeah, but if you're mad, you have this.
I mean, hats are cool, but you don't. I mean, with this,
you can't carry that around in public. Well, I guess you could. You could.
You don't need to buy a hat when you have this. You can just walk up to someone holding it, and they'll hand you whatever you want.
You're like, hat. But I got all sorts of new hats in. I got all sorts of new ones. I just got ordered a new white one for myself. So you will see it, but you can go to Honor Bound USA and you can get the hat. It means Delta or change or true north. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, that's the all-seeing eye. No, it's not actually. See, long before there was this whole thing where you guys decided that there was this thing called the Delta. It's a triangle. See the triangle? Untamed triangle. So the idea of it is to always be pointed true north, always chase the truth, and do so without any regret. And the Delta or the change, it just goes to how we have to change the direction of how they have manipulated and taken away truth from our everyday lives. So you can also go there and get the free Tina Peters stickers. I've already bought 500 of my own stickers. So you can get these. They are on gas pumps everywhere. And if I see a car that has a Harris sticker on it, I put the free on the window. I put it on the window so they can't say that I'm sabotaging anything, because all they have to do is peel it off, so you're not doing any damage to it. But I do put the free Tina Peters. I put a couple of those on people's windshields. Pretty cool. So, do you have anything else?
I actually put 3,000 of those on Jinder Griswold's house. So, no, I'm just kidding.
Dude, if it happens, I'll be like, you did it. Nope, I got an alibi.
I made it go. I'm in trouble now.
All right. Well, let's pray it out, shall we? And thanks for coming in with me, Matt. Father God, thank you for the time we have together. Thank you for just the amazing people who are ambassadors of truth that are out there constantly, Father, doing your work. We're thankful for Matt. We're thankful for Jeremy. We're thankful for the men and women who have stood up and stood strong while being persecuted, while being attacked and bullied, and while evil has just had its way in our communities and our country, but are just they to continue to stand and speak, Father. So I am very grateful for the friendships that we have and for the sacrifices made to get us to this place. Father, I ask you to, a couple special blessings specifically. One, to bless Matt's family as they are away, that they may be safe, that they may be secure, and that any anxieties that they have, that they may be released. And Father, I ask you to put a special blessing of protection around Matt, that as he goes to and from, that he may be protected in his home, and that truth can prevail in this nonsense lawfare against him. Father, I would also ask you to bless Jeremy, that he may have peace in his heart, that he may not, that he may have less bad days than he has good, and he may know that you are there and present. I ask you, Father, to bless his family and to give him provision so that he can continue on in building his life. And Father, I would just ask for accountability and justice. I know that I keep talking about that vengeance word, and we should never go to that. Vengeance does belong to you, Father. And I apologize if I've even relented to the fact that I would love to have it. That's the flesh talking, and I'm sorry. Forgive me. Father, I just do want justice. I want to see that people are held responsible for what they've done to your people, Father. Help us, Father, that we may never become the very thing that we're fighting against, and we may stay pure to our intentions and to your intentions, that we may move towards restoration, which is ultimately the goal. Help us, Father, we may pursue you, may act honorably, and that we can set aside petty differences so that we can get the work done that needs to be done to eradicate this evil from our communities and the world. Father, I ask these things as we go about our business this weekend, that we may honor you, and that we may spend time with our friends and family, and just may cherish that time. I say these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I will see you guys on Monday. Stay frosty. Thanks, Paulo.
And one more thing I will add, just for the record, I don't actually live in the house that was allegedly doxxed, which is interesting. So I don't know what the plan is with that, but I really appreciate the prayer.
Yeah, that by itself is problematic, because the people that do live there, are they going to face face consequences. So I'm glad you clarified that.
And I'm not just, I actually don't. Like, you can look at.
I already know.
It's interesting.
I already know.
It doesn't even make
Yeah.
any sense. Like that's what makes me
know.
think it's a joke. That's why. But whatever. Yeah, it really means a lot, the prayer, and I'm glad to have you.
I got you, brother. I am my brother's keeper. Yeah, it's a real thing. All right, God bless you. Thanks, Apollo, for all the good work that you do.
Brother, everybody have a great weekend.
All right, take care.